A former Sony camera developer released an interview at Nikkei, a famous financial magazine from Asia, and he gave a lot of insights about the story of the E-mount and the Sony Alpha mount success back from 2012 to today. And there are many points that I really want to talk about with you, but please take 2 seconds time to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button to not miss any of my upcoming videos. Before we go into the interesting content, disclaimer that I'm here on my terrace at home. Inside, my son is sick. Had a horrible night this night, so I was actually planning to go up in the fresh snow around the mountains. Came tonight, but I don't know if I can go on a ski tour this afternoon. I will try to sleep after this video, but I'm making this video because yesterday I saw the interview. I thought it's interesting enough to have a discussion with you about that. So let's go into the things that a former Sony employee shared. The former Sony camera developer name is Ishizuka. He worked since 2009 on the Sony Alpha mount camera division. Before that, he worked on the Sony battery division. And the first interesting thing he shared is that already in 2012 he knew perfectly that smartphones would get better and better and eat up the market share of particularly low-end system cameras and cameras. He really understood that the only way to survive in this market where the smartphones would eat up from the bottom end the camera market was to focus mainly on interchangeable cameras, because they have the unique advantage that you can switch lenses, something you can do on smartphones, and by switching lenses you can change your creative look of the photos. Also, of course, you cannot have those amazing tele reach on smartphone cameras. There are some unique advantages on interchangeable cameras, and back in 2012 he already knew Sony should focus on that. And when in November 2012 they launched the RX1 fixed lens full frame camera, he quickly understood that full frame was the main part for Sony. For him it was clear that Sony had to focus on launching a full frame E-mount mirrorless system. That's why in 2013 they worked on a secret project named A1 project. And don't confuse that A1 project with the A1 camera. It has nothing to do with the A1 camera. It was simply Alpha 1 project, and the goal was to become the #1 in the interchangeable market within the next 5 years. And to achieve that, they knew they had to go full frame E-mount. He also recalls that when the first A7 series was announced, it was quite a big success at the beginning, but then sales dropped quite sharply. Problem was that while the image quality was very okay, the autofocus was super slow. So in the next years, they were strongly focused on improving the autofocus by adding face detection on the sensor. This is the main area where Sony worked, and they were very successful, of course. And nowadays you cannot have a camera without face detection autofocus, and so this was a key to the success for Sony. He was already sure in 2013 that full frame mirrorless system would take the world by storm. He knew it, but he didn't share it publicly because they didn't want to wake up the giants like Canon and Nikon. They prefer to play the underdog. They prefer to stay very low in the profile. They didn't share details about the #1 project. They didn't share their goals about and their development, because they really wanted to take them by surprise. What he also shared is that Sony had another advantage compared to Canon and Nikon, is that they have a history as video camera makers, so they knew how to make video, and he also knew that video would become very important on mirrorless cameras. So this is something that where Canon and particularly Nikon didn't have much experience, and where Sony counted to grab a lot of attention and market share. And so the key to success for Sony was basically 3 steps. First, recognizing that smartphones would in the coming years eat up the camera market from the bottom. The second point was that full frame E-mount mirrorless would be the real key to success to become #1. And the third point was that this video part of the cameras would become very important, and Sony had a lot of experience on that, and they could beat the competition on that front. So here we are in 2023. We have the well-known Alpha E-mount system that we know as of today, and what changed in the past couple of years is that the focus really went on cameras that are very video focused, like for example the FX series that is selling very well, and also on that ZV series that is made for the Z generation of vloggers. That's why actually it's named ZV, It's the Z stands for the Z generation and V for the vloggers, of course. And so those are the two new areas where Sony is working on. So classic stills photography is somehow is still important, but the main drivers now are video and vloggers. My personal opinion is that Sony now has to do quite a lot to still remain ahead. Not so much against the competition, but against the ever-growing and better being a smartphone market. The smartphone market has the advantage that it's easy to carry with you. It's the image quality is basically good enough for casual shooting, and also what's very important with the smartphones is that you have complete app support and a lot of innovation, while cameras look like dinosaurs that rarely change and rarely give you new features. Particularly Sony lacks on the firmware strategy that we know. That's something they have to improve. If you would ask me, Sony has to do a complete evolution when it comes to the alpha E-mount cameras. It starts from having full third-party app support, which for me would be crucial. I think the first company implementing third-party app support will quickly go on top of the market share, because if you would buy that camera with app support, you know that every week you can download some kind of app that lets you do new things, particularly with all those new AI tools coming out every month. Having a direct implementation of those AI features would be stunning. I know that Zeiss ZX1 camera tried to, for example, directly support Adobe software in their main system, but of course this was a niche camera, very expensive niche camera. I think Sony should really completely redo the system based on Android, give full third-party support. I also think they should go into some niches, like for example medium format or even monochrome. I also think they have to finally do a proper bigger body camera for professionals that need a bigger body to have better ergonomics, better use if you use it outdoor with gloves, no overheating, the faster and cheaper CF Express type B cards could be used on a bigger camera. There are many advantages. I may do a video about this to go on also on a bigger body. You can still offer the E7 as a standard body, but also have on parallel a camera that has the same tech of us E7R5, but simply in a bigger body. That would be nice for me. This was just a short, quick sharing of my thoughts about that interview. I will dig into some of those my ideas in future videos, where I will explain why Sony has to do certain steps to still be ahead in the market. But that's it for today, and I see you soon.